Please like the video and share it so that it reaches many more people and you get sawaba, or rewards from Allah. This could be a sawabe jariyah or continuous reward for you long after you are gone.
Conditions, Volume 3, Book 50, number 874 to 895. Volume 3, Book 50, number 874. Narrated by Marwan and al-Miswar bin Makrama. From the companions of Allah's Apostle, when Suhail bin Amr agreed to the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, one of the things he stipulated then was that the Prophet should return to them, i.e. the pagans, anyone coming to him from their side, even if he was a Muslim, and would not interfere between them and that person. The Muslims did not like this condition and got disgusted with it. Suhail did not agree except with that condition. So, the Prophet agreed to that condition and returned Abu Jandal to his father Suhail bin Amr. Thenceforward the Prophet returned everyone in that period of truce, even if he was a Muslim. During that period some believing women emigrants, including Kalthum bint Uqba bin Abu Mu'ayt, who came to Allah's Apostle, and she was a young lady then. Her relative came to the Prophet and asked him to return her. But the Prophet did not return her to them, for Allah had revealed the following verse regarding women. O you who believe, when the believing women come to you as emigrants, examine them. Allah knows best as to their belief. Then if you know them for true believers, send them not back to the unbelievers, for they are not lawful wives for the disbelievers, nor are the unbelievers lawful husbands for them. 60.10. Narrated, Urwa. Aisha told me, Allah's Apostle used to examine them according to this verse, O you who believe. When the believing women come to you, as emigrants, test them. For Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. 60.10-12. Aisha said, when any of them agreed to that condition, Allah's Apostle would say to her, I have accepted your pledge of allegiance. He would only say that, but, by Allah, he never touched the hand of any women, i.e. never shook hands with them, while taking the pledge of allegiance, and he never took their pledge of allegiance except by his words only. Volume 3, Book 50, number 875. Narrated by Jarrah. When I gave the pledge of allegiance to Allah's Apostle, and he stipulated that I should give good advice to every Muslim. Volume 3, Book 50, number 876. Narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. I gave the pledge of allegiance to Allah's Apostle for offering the prayers perfectly, paying the zakat, and giving good advice to every Muslim. Volume 3, Book 50, number 877. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's Apostle said, if someone sells pollinated date palms, their fruits will be for the seller, unless the buyer stipulates the contrary. Volume 3, Book 50, number 878. Narrated by Urwa. Aisha told me that Buraira came to seek her help in writing for emancipation, and at that time she had not paid any part of her price. Aisha said to her, go to your masters, and if they agree that I will pay your price and free you, on condition that your wallah will be for me, I will pay the money. Buraira told her masters about that, but they refused, and said, if Aisha wants to do a favor she could, but your wallah will be for us. Aisha informed Allah's Apostle of that, and he said to her, buy and manumit Buraira as the wallah will go to the manumitted. Volume 3, Book 50, number 879. Narrated by Jabir. While I was riding a slow and tired camel, the Prophet passed by and beat it and prayed for Allah's blessings for it. The camel became so fast as it had never been before. The Prophet then said, sell it to me for 1 ukiah of gold. I said, no. He again said, sell it to me for 1 ukiah of gold. I sold it and stipulated that I should ride it to my house. When we reached Medina, I took that camel to the Prophet and he gave me its price. I returned home but he sent for me. And when I went to him, he said, I will not take your camel. Take your camel as a gift for you. Various narrations are mentioned here with slight variations in expressions relating the condition that Jabir had the right to ride the sold camel up to Medina. Volume 3, Book 50, number 880. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Ansar said to the Prophet, divide our date palms between us and our emigrant brothers. The Prophet said, no. The Ansar said to the emigrants, you may do the labor in our gardens, and we will share the fruits with you. The emigrants said, we hear and obey. Volume 3, Book 50, number 881. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's apostle gave the land of Khaybar to the Jews on the condition that they would work on it and cultivate it and they would get half of its yield. Volume 3, Book 50, number 882. Narrated by Uqba bin Amir. Allah's apostle said, from among all the conditions which you have to fulfill, the conditions which make it legal for you to have sexual relations, i.e. the marriage contract, have the greatest right to be fulfilled. Volume 3, Book 50, number 883. Narrated by Rafi bin Khadij. We used to work on the fields more than the other Ansar, and we used to rent the land, for the yield of a specific portion of it. But sometimes that portion or the rest of the land did not give any yield, so we were forbidden, by the Prophet, to follow such a system, but we were allowed to rent the land for money. Volume 3, Book 50, number 884. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, no town dweller should sell for a Bedouin. Do not practice najish, i.e. do not offer a high price for a thing which you do not want to buy, in order to deceive the people. No Muslim should offer more for a thing already bought by his Muslim brother. Nor should he demand the hand of a girl already engaged to another Muslim. A Muslim woman shall not try to bring about the divorce of her sister, i.e. another Muslim woman, in order to take her place herself. Volume 3, Book 50, number 885. Narrated by Abu Hurairah and Zayd bin Khalid al-Juhani. A Bedouin came to Allah's apostle and said, O Allah's apostle, I ask you by Allah to judge my case according to Allah's laws. His opponent, who was more learned than he, said, yes, judge between us according to Allah's laws, and allow me to speak. Allah's apostle said, speak. He, i.e. the Bedouin or the other man, said, my son was working as a laborer for this man, and he committed illegal sexual intercourse with his wife. The people told me that it was obligatory that my son should be stoned to death, so in lieu of that I ransomed my son by paying 100 sheep and a slave girl. Then I asked the religious scholars about it, and they informed me that my son must be lashed 100 lashes, and be exiled for 1 year, and the wife of this man must be stoned to death. Allah's apostle said, by him in whose hands my soul is, I will judge between you according to Allah's laws. The slave girl and the sheep are to be returned to you. Your son is to receive 100 lashes and be exiled for 1 year. You, Unay, go to the wife of this man, and if she confesses her guilt, stone her to death. Unay went to that woman next morning and she confessed. Allah's apostle ordered that she be stoned to death.